Hi, I saw a video on YouTube recently where a lady made a card front for a card using the Silhouette software, and I thought it'd be really easy to recreate the same idea using ScanNCut Canvas. So in this video I'm going to show you how I did it in Canvas, and these are the two cards I've made on screen, and it's this front mat section here with the greeting that I'm going to show you how to do. And I cut it in white, and then I realised that as I mounted it on a white card that it might not be very clear to see on screen, so I also cut a green one at the same time to give you more of an idea. I've used one piece of pattern paper behind each of these, but in the original video, which I'll put a link to, the lady used three separate strips of pattern paper, which look quite pretty as well. So I'll jump straight into the tutorial, and then you can have a play about with this if you want to recreate it. I thought these might make really simple, quick thank you cards if you've got children in your family. I know I have a daughter, and I always ask her to make thank you cards at Christmas to thank everybody for all the presents and everything. And this mat here is only about 5.5 by 4, so you'd get several cut from a piece of 12 by 12 cardstock. And the background, the actual card itself, is a piece of A4 card cut in half but down the long side. I'll see if I can bring a picture in and show you. This was my piece of A4 card, and I just cut it in half right down the middle, down the long side, and then folded it so it's like a tent fold. So I'll jump into the project now anyway, and you can decide if it's something that you might want to have a go at. So we're going to go to project and create a new project and choose a blank page. I've already got one open, so I don't need to. Okay, now we want to come to the basic shapes, and we want a square, and we want to, you can see the size here, this is 3.94 inches square. Ours needs to be 5.5 inches tall, so I'm going to select this middle circle here, and I'm going to drag this down until I get 5.5, and then I'm going to drag one of these sides out and make this 4. It only needs to come out a little bit because it's just under 4 inches now. There you go. So that's the basic mat. Now we're going to come to our borders. You play around and see how they look, but I chose this one. And then holding the shift key down, I'm going to rotate it using this middle circle here, so it's vertical. And you can see the size here, it's 11.5, just under 11.5 inches high, and it's just over 3/4 of an inch wide here. And I want it about 1/2 inch wide, so I'm going to hold my shift key down, and I'm going to get a corner here. I'm going to drag it inwards until I get to 0.50 on the width. And then let go. So that's about 1/2 inch wide now. It doesn't matter about the length because we're going to adjust it in a minute anyway. So while it's selected, I'm going to right click and hit duplicate. And then I'm going to right click and hit duplicate again. So I've got 3. I'm just going to zoom in a little so you can see. I'm going to select this middle one, and I'm using the arrows on my keyboard. I'm going to use the up arrow. I want the arc of this shape here to sit in about the middle of this one here. So I'm going to take this one up just by eye, and then I'm going to select this one and use the arrow on my keyboard again and take this one up and take this one past this second one until, that's gone a bit too far now, until this arc here sits in this dip here. So I'll just use the arrow on my keyboard, going back down again now. And that looks about right. Now I'm going to drag an imaginary box around all those three and right click and hit group. And once they're a group, I'm going to position them over this rectangle. I'm just going to try that again. Right click, group. There we go, we've got a group now. I'm going to bring this over here. And again, I'm not doing this to any exact positioning, I'm just doing it by eye. So I've got a bit of a gap here and then something here. You could always add another embellishment on if you want. And I'm just going to leave it like that. Now I'm going to come back to the basic shapes and get myself a square. And I'm going to position this square because I want to chop these three here. I want to chop this top bit off here, about here. Again, as I say, I'm just doing it by eye. I'm going to bring this one down a bit and bring this one in. So this square is inside this rectangle, but it's overlapping, and anything of these, but this border that's in this square will be deleted. I hope that makes sense. I'll show you in a minute. While this square is deleted, I'm going to right click and hit duplicate. And I'm going to bring the duplicate down and I'm going to do the same down here. I'm going to position it just roughly about there. Okay, so I've got this rectangle selected. I'm holding my shift key down. I'm going to select the borders, which are all a group. And then while I'm still holding my shift key down, I'm going to select this rectangle. This rectangle and this rectangle have got to be on top of the border. That's why I put the border in position first. And hopefully they will be on top. And we'll soon find out if they're not, because it won't work, and I'll show you if it doesn't work. So we're going to use this third icon along, which is remove overlap. Okay, now that has worked, because if we bring this box away, you can see it's chopped them off here. And if we bring this box away, you'll see it's chopped them off here. And that was because I positioned the borders on this main rectangle first, and then I put these squares over it. Okay, now I can get rid of one of these boxes because I don't need it. I'm going to select the other one, and I'm going to leave it at the size it is for now, but I'm going to take it down on its height to 0.75, 3/4 of an inch, and you'll see that on the bottom of the screen here. When I've got 0.75, I'm going to bring this down. You can position this where you want. You could put it in the middle, you could put it near the top. I put mine about 3/4 of the way down, so I'm going to position it there. Okay, now these borders are individual again, because when we did the divide, when it takes the bits away we don't want, it ungroups these. So I'm going to select the first border, hold my shift key down, select the second, select the third, and then select this rectangle which is on top of these three. And then I'm going to come up here to this remove overlap again and hit that. And then when I move this away, and we can now delete it, you'll see that I've got the space. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hold my shift key down and select these borders again and make them a group, right click and group. And then I'm going to drag an imaginary box around both and right click and make them a group. I could have just done that in all one operation, but it's just the way I do things. Then I'm going to come up here to the properties, and I'm going to come here and I'm going to click cut line and then close the box down. So everything that's selected now should be assigned a cut line. I'm going to come back over here and go to text, and I'm just going to choose a font, bring it over here so you can see it. I'm going to double click at the end of this T here to get the flashing cursor, and I'm going to use the backspace to get rid of the word text, and I'm going to type thank you. And then hit enter, or just hit a space on the page to select it. And obviously you can see that's far too big. So holding the shift key down, I'm going to get hold of a corner. You can see the size here. This gap we made was 0.75 inches high, if you remember. So I want the height here to be about ½ inch. So while I'm holding my shift key down, I'm going to drag it in until I can see, I'm not bothered about how wide it is, until I can see that it's ½ inch, 0.50 high. Okay, and then while it's selected, I'm going to come up here, I'm going to make it all black for a start so you can see it better. But I'm this time going to select this third option, which is draw line, and then close the box down. Then I'm going to drag this in and position it in that space. And again, if you don't like the size of it, you could select it and hold your shift key down and make it a bit smaller and position it as you like. And then I'll try and zoom in so you can see it a bit clearer. Okay? And if you want to adjust your positioning, select it and use the arrows on your keyboard to center it in this space. And then I'm going to drag an imaginary box around everything, and I'm going to right click and select group. And by doing this, when you bring this into Canvas, you can cut multiples of this. And providing it's a group, everyone will be the same. If you don't group it here, when you bring it into Canvas, the rectangle and this border will be a group because we grouped them earlier, but these words won't be grouped to the card front. And if you want to resize it, you have to then use the red boxes on the machine and choose the unify. So I find it easier to do it like this. So that's the front of your card now, and it's all grouped. Give it a name up here, card front. Save it in your projects. Once it's saved in your projects, click the download button. You'll see the name, right click, choose. I use a Mac, so mine's download link file as. You might see something like save target file as, something like that. Click that, choose where to save it, put it on the desktop, you can see it's there, and save it, and then you just drag that onto your USB stick and you can put that in your machine. And because you have assigned a draw line and a cut line, when you bring this onto your mat in ScanNCut Canvas, as I say, you can duplicate it, and if you're using 12 by 12, you could see that you could get quite a few of these. Now that wasn't grouped, was it? So let's drag it around again. Group. There you go. And then if you duplicated these on screen, you could see you could get quite a few, so you could cut and write the words on several at once. And all that happens is you put this on your mat in ScanNCut machine, and you hit cut, and when you hit cut, the words will disappear and you'll be left with the borders and the frame. Put your blade in, hit go, and it will cut however many of these you've placed on your mat. When it's finished cutting, it will say OK on screen. You hit OK, and then it will bring you back to the window that says draw or cut. And then the next time you hit draw, take your blade out of your machine. You've not removed your mat from your machine at all. Put your pen in, hit draw, hit start, and it will go back and it will write all the greetings in on however many of these you've placed on your Scan and Cut mat. And then all you have to do is get your A4 card, cut it lengthwise down the middle, fold it in half, and then you can cut some strips of paper and stick them onto the back of this mat, or use one piece of paper and stick it down, and then stick the whole thing back down onto the card front, and you'll end up with something that looks like this. So I hope you found that helpful. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.